Hi, I'm Annie Botticelli, and welcome to my June 2019 horoscope report for you. My intention for this video is to equip you with the information that you need regarding the astrological transits to have the best month possible. I will give you information about things that are occurring in June that will affect your sign and the general transits that will affect you, at the same time as understanding cycles that are at play for a much longer period of time to put everything into context to let you know what you're working with this month. Definitely go to my website, anniehelpsyou.com, where you can check out my extensive astrology blog, including new moon and full moon blogs, to assist you with using those power days of the month each month. Also, if you'd love to sign up for my astrology apprenticeship program, if you resonate with how I teach and you want to learn, you can definitely check that out at anniehelpsyou.com, as well as book a live reading. If you are looking to transform your life, check out my book, Radical Prayer, Transform Your Life in the World in 28 Days. It's a wonderful little affirmation prayer book that is super powerful and positive to help uplift you. So you can check that out on Amazon or at radicalprayerbook.com. So what's going on for you this month? I'm going to go into the details for your sign. I'm going to also pop in at some point the astrology charts that I'm looking at, so I can show you for the early, middle, and late degree placements, depending on where you are in the sign, how there could be some differences and what things are the same for every member of the sign. And also we'll talk about the general transits that will absolutely be affecting you and how you can best use those energies. So let's see what's going on for your sign now. Hello, Leo friends. I'm excited to tell you what I think is in store for you for June 2019. We've got a month full of life-changing steps for many Leos. Dramatic eclipse news coming in certain areas of life that we will go into great detail about. In general, there's a very emotional mood, and this can be emotions that are exciting emotions, and they can be bittersweet. So, you know, the endings, this theme of big endings and new beginnings for you is going to really ramp up at this time. The planets in Cancer are going to bring emotion to the situation, as are the eclipses. The energy in Gemini is going to bring life and excitement and newness. So this is, you know, very much, this time for Leos is very much epitomized with new beginnings and the bittersweet dissolution of the things that you're leaving behind to step forward into these, you know, new things. So I want to show you the charts. I want to talk to you about the eclipses. I want to give you an eclipse tutorial so that you understand this eclipse cycle, when it happened last, when you can look back to and remember the changes that happened in certain years so that you can understand more what's happening with the eclipse cycle now, as certain themes tend to come up again and repeat, just with sometimes different storylines, but the essence is still very similar. So I'm going to drop in an eclipse tutorial. I'm going to drop in the charts and show you exactly where these eclipses are going to happen for early, middle, and late degree placements and what kind of things you can expect from that. And then we'll talk about the general transits, including some dates that are very important and my favorite times of the month to do something important if you have to make a plan. Okay, so let's start with the eclipse tutorial. So I want to give you a little eclipse tutorial, and that will help you to better use the energy that we're going to talk about specifically for your sign as to where the eclipses are hitting. But general understandings of what you do with eclipse energy, how it manifests. I also want to talk about this particular eclipse cycle, the Cancer-Capricorn eclipse cycle, and give you a framework for when it's happened before and what kind of things you can expect based on what happened at those times, okay? So, solar eclipses tend to bring in new energy, new opportunities, new directions. There's a solar eclipse on July 2nd, and that's going to be at 10 degrees of Cancer. We'll go into the details about where that's looking for house placement soon, but just in general, it's in the energy of Cancer. Okay, so new beginnings in that energy. The lunar eclipse is happening on July 16th at 24 degrees of Capricorn. Okay, so lunar eclipses tend to bring something to a culmination, like it's been building, and well, now it's arrived, or it can end something, remove something, eclipse something out. So the eclipse energies at the times that the eclipses are strongest, well, because we're in an eclipse cycle for a couple of years at a time. So for instance, from this eclipse cycle, Cancer Capricorn started mid-2018 and runs through mid-2020. So anytime from mid 2018 to mid 2020, anything can happen that's eclipse related. You can have eclipse news nowhere near an eclipse time because there's a storyline that's at play and it's acting in your life. Okay, so you'll see it's a theme that takes place over that time. But when it's eclipse time, the month of the eclipses and the 4 to 6 weeks before and after, so over a course of several months at a time, it's more likely that something will bring this eclipse storyline that's kind of running in the backdrop out into the front in a big dramatic way, in a big notable way, with things that were pending or discussed coming to fruition or coming up to be dealt with. Okay, so now we have that time. So July is the eclipse time, but we can start really getting like heated up hot eclipse energies middle May. And that can also run through, mid-September is like this major eclipse season. So as we're getting closer to July, news is more likely to come in and things will come to a head. Okay, so that's the first thing to know. The second thing to know is that think back to like 2009 to 2011 and think back to 2000 and 2001 because those were the last times that we had the Cancer Capricorn eclipse cycle. So you can think about the themes that have been going on since mid-2018. Think about what happened 2009, 2011. Think about what happened in 2000, 2001. And those are the kind of themes that are likely to come up again. Now, I know I'm going to get this question, so I'm just going to address this here. Yes, we did have the credit, housing, financial debacle of the century in that time frame of 2008, 2009, 2010, like around there. There was quite a lot of strife in a lot of sectors, and many people had dramatic losses of house, home, work, things like that. So is it possible that those energies are going to come back in again? Yes, absolutely. Is it going to manifest that same exact way? Probably not, because there were other factors going on in the world that contributed to what that looked like. And there were different factors at play that created that bubble that then popped, than are at play now. But definitely storylines similar to that. If you think back and you were moving house or having things involving housing or moving or home or work or expanding work or family and like all of that, those kind of things are going to definitely be current. And the other themes that occurred that aren't related to those areas of life are very likely going to come back into the forefront. And those are going to be dependent on the sign, which we're going to go into more details about. But I just wanted to give you this storyline, like, okay, this principle of energy not ever disappearing or being made new, that there's this finite amount of energy, but it's changed around. It just changes form. It's very evident at eclipse time because something is removed and something is put in. And sometimes you get the new thing put in before the other thing's removed. Sometimes they happen at the same time. Sometimes there's, staggering where you like have the thing taken, there's this gaping hole and you're like, where's the thing to fill the energy? It hasn't come in yet. It takes a little time. The way I commonly see this as like a really good eclipse example is like a child is about to be born and then a grandparent passes away, So like in that same amount of time, this representative of family energy dissolves into another form, takes the form of a kid, and it's like, okay, so now this energy is present in that form. So that specific example will happen in a lot of cases, but there's so much more to it than that. So, just be on the lookout for the things that want to fall away, and the degree to which we can let those things transition away are going to affect how we can embrace the new things. One thing that I do recommend that you look into is a homeopathic remedy called Gelsemium, Gelsemium. Okay, I'm not a doctor. You don't have to have a license to, work with these. You can find it on Amazon or at a health food store. Gelsemium is a homeopathic remedy that is traditionally used for stage fright, but it's also used from if you're looking at the energies of the components, it's more having to do with showing up for the things that are expected from you and showing up for the things that are unavoidable. So even like midwives will give this remedy at childbirth when the woman is showing up for like the big show, So just think about the Gelsemium and look into that because it could help those things that are happening just to kind of release the fear around stepping into your new life that wants to show up. Okay, so let's look at where in the chart these changes are likely to occur. Okay, so to best use this information I'm going to give you, let's see if you're in early, middle, or late degree placement. A lot of the things we talk about is going to be true in some way or another for all of you. But there are places we're going to differentiate. So let's get situated here. Early Leos are pretty much July born or 0 to 9 degrees. Middle Leos, August 1st through 10th or 10 to 19 degrees. Late Leos, August 11th through the rest of the sign or 20 to 29 degrees. And yes, if you are watching for your rising sign or your moon, this is actually also relevant for you. Your sun sign report and your rising sign report and even your moon sign report show different windows into the full picture for you. So they are equally as valid. And I do recommend that you watch at least the sun and rising if you know your rising sign. Okay, so the first thing, I'm going to use the late degree chart just to talk about some things for everybody. We talked about the energy of Cancer bringing in emotions. Okay, so the eclipses are going to be emotional. This energy is starting to move into Cancer, and these planets are going to move into Cancer during this month as well. They're in Gemini now, but they will move in. So as the month moves on, more emotion is going to come in and introspection. For the time that the Sun, Mercury, and then Venus will move into Gemini, this will make 60-degree angles, beautiful, sweet, awesome potentials for you. I always call the 60-degree angles the ingredients for a pie on a counter, you know, because you have all the things that you need to make something yummy, but sometimes you have to do something with it. That's the energy of 60 degrees. So as all these planets move through Gemini, a lot of busyness, a lot of action, a lot of mobility, a lot of interacting with friends, new friends, old friends, you know, just a lot of socializing is definitely happening for Leos at this time. But that draw to take personal time is also going to be there with the, you know, emotional energy. So just make sure you take that time as you need it. Okay, so in general, we can see, look at the houses that are accentuated. Just do some brief focus on that. All right, so early and middle, you've got 12th, 11th, and 10th houses really in focus. For late degree, you've got 11th, 10th, and 9th really into focus. Okay, so that's one of the differences between the late degree chart is that there's not as much predominance of short-term ninth house things for, you know, early and middle, but that 9th house is still predominant for you late degree placements. And the themes of the 12th house aren't coming in as strongly for you late degree placements yet. All right, so what does all of this mean? In general, the 9th house has to do with, so again, this is strong focus for late degree, teaching, learning, traveling, long distance travel, and spirituality, and seeking positive solutions and creative solutions to challenges. Finding a perfect education or teaching courses or stepping into your teacher role, editing, writing, publishing, speaking are all things that I see happen a lot with this. Now, all Leos, you know, you can have anything like this happen at any time because Leos tend to have, you know, a lot of positive energy from the 9th house because it's a fire house and Leos are fire signs, but it's more accentuated by the transits for the late degree people. All Leo placements have strong focus on work and career, and your place out in the world. It could also be father figures or authority figures. Sometimes I see mom show up in the 10th house if mom was a single parent or a very strong, you know, energy holding the place for dad as well. So you might see notable things involving parents there. The 11th house, it's busy for everybody, has to do with friendships, groups, your tribe, finding your tribe, being with your tribe, internet-based projects, inventions, humanitarian efforts. So those are all coming up for you all. Now let's specifically look at, and I'll talk about the 12th house more when we get into these eclipses. All right, so let's look to see where these eclipse cycles are at play. Now, when we're talking about this, remember, it's not just for this period of time. It's between 2018 and 2020. There's an eclipse cycle that's happening. And for you, early degree placements, it's a Cancer, Capricorn eclipse cycle. So the predominant storyline for you early placements is the 12th and 6th house. We'll talk about what this means soon, but I just want to illustrate some important things here, okay? So depending on, oh wait, hold on a second. Yeah. Just wanted you to see the degree there. Okay, so depending on your early placement, you could also have some themes in the 11th and 5th. All right, so basically the early, you have a primary theme of 12th and 6th. Again, we're going to explain what this means in a second. Middle degree placements, you have, oh wait, hold on. Still with the early, you might have a sub-theme for the early degree placements of the 11th and 5th, like a sub-theme, whispers of that. Middle degree placements, you have an equal focus on the 12th and 6th houses, because Cancer and Capricorn are there, and the 11th and 5th, because you have Capricorn placements in the 5th and you have Cancer placements in the 11th. So as the eclipse cycles move through the different parts of those signs, middle degree placements, you have 4 places that are pretty much equally highlighted. All right, so 11th and 5th and 12th and 6th for this whole eclipse cycle are highlighted for you. Whereas the late degree placements, you've got the opposite situation that these early degree have. You have a primary eclipse pattern occurring in the 11th and 5th with a little sub-theme in the 12th and 6th. So it's all of these things I'm going to talk about are relevant for all of you, but it's showing up in a different way, in a different level of importance, and a different level of focus. So we'll say a sub-theme of 11th and 5th. All right, I know I get technical sometimes and that throws some of you off, and I do apologize for that. But I'm an astrology teacher, and I like to give the people who are wanting to learn something that they can learn every time I'm on here with you. Okay, so now what does it mean when we have eclipses, right? Okay, so they bring in new, sudden changes, new beginnings. They eclipse out old or bring things to fruition or culmination and a natural ending. Sometimes they're dramatic endings, things that come out of the blue where it's like your life is radically changed in a very short amount of time. As I said before, Uranus has been bringing a theme like this already to you, like these sudden changes, but the eclipses are going to bring more of it. Having a solar eclipse in the 12th house, which is major focus for early, definitely a part of a focus for some middle. See, that's the late chart. See, for some middle, and then not as much of a focus for you late. This can have to do with spiritual breakthroughs, spiritual transformation, clearing up of or something having to do with addictions, clearing out karma, clearing out past life issues, genetic memory, finding something of value from the past. And this can be like genetic information, linking up with old, with people who you're related to and finding out family secrets or information. This can be something like finding something in your attic that is worth something. So like something hidden coming in that has value. There's a very strong chance for especially early and middle degree Leo placements. So look for that gold. It's hidden. You might also find fears. Unfortunately, fears are in that house. But if you can break through the fears, then you can get to the gold. Okay, so that's, again, addictions are like a big thing here. So breaking through addictions can be a major theme of this time. So for the 6th house, sudden changes, dramatic news in the work sector. So early and middle, especially this is highlighted for you. Late degree, you might see some of this. It's not as strongly aspected as it is for the other placements. Dramatic things involving pets, dramatic endings, dramatic, things that need attention, work crisis, work events, somebody at work, leaving, and that turns out to be important, changes to your routine, major changes to your schedule. And this also could be a health crisis. This 12th and 6th house has to do with the body-mind connection. And so mental and physical health crisis could come up for people. Definitely pay attention to any symptoms and take action on them, because this is, a time when things want to be revealed. And even though it can be dramatic and stressful, sometimes it's exactly what has to happen in order to get help or in order to know what is going on. But definitely if you're someone that's prone to physical or mental stress or problems, then seek out the support before, so that the eclipse energy doesn't have to come in and say, hey, time to do something about this now. If you're being proactive, sometimes it can soften some of that. Okay, so for the middle degree placements and late degree placements, tiny whispers possibly for you early, but this is more focused for middle and late. You've got a strong theme in the 11th and 5th house. This has to do with the polarity of the group versus the individual. Like sudden changes and dramatic news in the area of children, having children. A surprise pregnancy, something, milestones involving kids, something notable, a child needing attention, creative projects coming to fruition or ending, anything like that. A romantic relationship having a sudden ending or a sudden intensification or a sudden addition of a child, something like that. The solar eclipse energy can bring in new friendships, new groups, new tribes, new feeling of connectivity to something bigger than yourself. So this whole eclipse cycle, for the couple of years this goes on between 2018 and 2020, for middle and late, is very much about your individuality and your place within the group, and all kinds of storylines and shuffling around involving those energies. People pleasing, issues with people pleasing, pleasing yourself, where you're focused too much on yourself and need to be focused more on the group, like balancing out the perfect balance between your individuality and how you show up in the group. And for many people, this could involve taking a new leadership role within the group, opportunities to teach or lead within the group, things like retreats or teaching classes. And again, internet-based stuff is like super strong, and that's for all early, middle, and late degree placements. So, getting your business online, anything having to do with being seen by more people or working with groups that are already established to bring your work and your gifts out to a larger group of people. A lot of times with eclipses, there is this energy of suddenness. So it could seem like, wow, all of a sudden you are like in a different situation, or key things involving friendships, key endings in friendships, key beginnings in friendships. And the same thing with groups, like you could be part of a circle and then you're leaving that circle, maybe you're moving and you're going back to a previous circle or starting a new friendship circle. It very much has to do with groups and also social media. So anything where you're doing work with social media or your relationship with social media is very much coming up to be addressed and can be, have dramatic things. I always like to say check your privacy things with things like this, because since the energy of drama wants to come into this sector, any places where you can be protected and cautious. Also be really careful about things you post on social media. There could be, very positive things that are well supported, but there could be, some challenges or conflicts that come from that. So just be really careful and remember the things you post on there, in a lot of cases, can be very permanent and can affect your life in the future. So add some care there. Okay, so now I want to talk about the general transits, give you my favorite dates for doing anything important, and talk about some other dates and other polarities about the eclipses that are coming up for everybody, and other things I think you need to know about the month. I'm calling the theme of the month for all signs for June 2019, Dramatic Eclipse News and Changes. Twice a year we have eclipses, and at that time, radical changes, massive trajectory shifts, major endings, brilliant new beginnings are all more prominent as an experience for us. We are moving along an eclipse cycle of the Cancer Capricorn cycle. So I'm going to go into a lot more details about how that can affect you from the general standpoint. Of course, I've already gone into extensive detail for your sign. In general, this month is full of opportunities to continue moving projects along. The open window that we have that's free and clear from personal planet retrogrades extends until around June 20th. So Starting around then, Mercury retrograde pre-shadow period will start making its way deeper and deeper and deeper until the actual retrograde at the beginning of July, and Mercury will be retrograde all of July. So in July, we have 2 eclipses and Mercury retrograde, but in June, we are feeling the effects of Mercury about to go retrograde and the eclipses that haven't happened yet. So every once in a while, I'll have somebody say, why are you talking about this now? That sounds like it should be for July. But as I've just explained to you, the manifestations of astrological transits are not as black and white as they may be presented out of simplicity. But I like to go into the yummy details because these are the things that really, really, really start to help you build your astrological understanding and to use these energies in the best way. Okay, so Mercury retrograde is a time when lots of changes come. Plans that we made often change, shift, or are called into question. Sometimes they actually work out, but there's usually this heavy energy of being called into question. So June may be a time for planning and pulling things through, especially the first 3 weeks. But there's also going to be this tone towards the end of the month, especially that things that seem like they were set may start to, you're just not sure if they're going to happen. So there's that energy. Plus, coupled with that, eclipses bring big news. So you could be planning on doing this, and then all of a sudden eclipse news comes in and guess what? You're not doing that. That's totally changed. So I always recommend to leave things as flexible as possible and just to be open to the changes that may come. And when you're making agreements and arrangements, just make them knowing that there's a chance they're going to change, because that will help you to have the appropriate relationship with what it is you're working with. In general, this month, these planets in Gemini, lots of energy in Gemini, is bringing crazy busyness and dizzying, just kind of options swirling around. Some things will be manifesting as like options gelling, like, okay, there's this and this and this actually happening. But other things will be like, do I do this? Do I do this? Do I do this? Do I do this? Is like a typical Gemini energy. At the same time, Cancer energies are going to be just as strong this month as the Gemini energies and have equal weight. And those are more emotional, nostalgic. So definitely expect high emotion, both from the Cancer energies and the eclipses. Nostalgia, home and family and housing topics get brought right into the forefront. And this is for every sign, because the energy of Cancer is prominent for every sign. These 2 July eclipses that are bringing in these changes, we discussed them quite a lot for your individual sign, but I want to talk about some of the general transit energies. So that has to do with the Cancer Capricorn cycle that started mid-2018 and will go into mid-2020. And so everyone can expect major changes in the areas of home and work, male and female energies, mother and father energies, mother and father responsibilities and roles, our inner world versus our outer world, our emotional space versus our outer space, our childhood versus our adult picture. Those are themes that are going to be brought up into focus for all signs, regardless of what house it's falling into for your specific sign. This general theme, or these general themes, are things that you can expect for the whole time. So as we discussed, there's a quite extended timeline for these eclipses. So between May and even August into September is eclipse season. So radical changes occurring during that time, or during that whole time. So there's an equal amount of positive aspects and challenging aspects this month. And because of that, it's really your attitude, perspective, and inner work that can change, like can tip the scales as to how you experience this month. Okay, so with all things being equal, like, oh, dicey, oh, great. If you're riding the line, how you're seeing things and how you use the things that come in are going to really change how you experience this month. So you have a lot of power in your hands, but it is going to take some work on your part to try to frame the things that are occurring to stay on the positive side. Because if you slip into the victim mode and feel like life is happening to you, it's going to be a lot more difficult to get the gold from this month. I'm going to hit a couple of highlights about some specific dates to note. And if you would like a more detailed written explanation of the dates that have notable transits and what the transits are and what you can expect with that, definitely sign up for my free email newsletter at anniehelpsyou.com. When you sign up for my free email newsletter, you get this general transit overview a month early, written in your inbox so that you can use it for planning purposes and see what days are more stressful and what days are, lighter. I used to go into like a lot of detail about all of these, but I've had many requests to try to shorten my videos, which are already super long and detailed. So in order to reach that objective, definitely sign up for my free email newsletter. I don't send out a ton of email newsletters because I don't like how that feels to get it. So when you sign up for my newsletter, know that you will be treasured and honored and respected. So I'm going to go into, let's see, a few here. June 2nd, like really actually the first several days of the month are my favorite days of the month to do anything important. It might just have it that you have to do these important things on other days, and that's totally fine. But if you can plan something, if there's something that you're planning, something that you have, an intention to do ahead of time, this early part of the month, like the first 3 or 4 days or so, is more sweet and uninterrupted by the intermittent challenging aspects than any other time in the month, because the rest of the month it's like sweet, dicey, sweet, dicey, sweet, dicey, right on top of each other, often on the same day. But this little cluster right at the beginning, you're in this free time, free from personal planet retrogrades. You are in this time where the aspects are sweet. You've got the new moon on June 3rd in Gemini. This is a month where a lot of travel opportunities are going to abound because Gemini energy is prominent. New moon in Gemini and full moon in Sagittarius are all things that tend to bring travel and opportunities for expansion and moving around. Okay, so try to do your important things in the beginning of the month if you can help it. Otherwise, I always say intuitively align your actions with the energy that you're experiencing. Because what happens, again, it's like people want to have a black and white answer and say, is this a good day or a bad day? The answer is, we don't know, okay? Because it depends on how you experience it. A lot of these aspects you can feel, even though they're happening on one day, you can feel them a few up to, 5 or a week or longer before they happen. So they're mixing energies, just like mixing flavors in a meal. And they fade in and fade out. So you have to tune in, and if you have to do something, you kind of feel that internal sense of timing and that divine synchronicity lining up in front of you and say, okay, and now, it's just like catching a wave. If you've ever been surfing, it's like you have to wait for that exact second. And if you hit it just right, then you coast and have an amazing ride. But that's what we're trying to do. So no astrologer and no horoscope in the world is going to be able to give you all of the answers that you need. You need to tune in, given the information that you're given, and find your own way according to how energy is moving through you, because there could be a transit on a day that's amazing, and in your personal chart, which we can't see from the general chart perspective, you could be having a challenging lineup. So, you just have to follow your flow. Okay, so beginning of the month, awesome. New moon on June 3rd, time to make your new moon wishes. And I have a blog about the new moons and the full moons on my website to help you best use those days. So if you want to see how you can best use your new moon and Gemini wishes, you can do a search for new moon and Gemini Annie. I think if you even just do that on any search, it will come up. That blog will come up. Okay, so we have a lot of stressful aspects this month, oppositions and squares, which are putting pressure on a situation. Okay, so for some people, this could be crunch time to make something happen. For some people, this could be an interference with plans that were made or an interference with certainty that you had. Also, it could be overstimulation and overdoing and overcommitting. So just be really careful there. There are going to be a lot of forces that are working against, encouraging you to overdo at the same time as working against you if you actually do that. Okay, in the middle of the month, this Jupiter square Neptune, that we had this happen in January. We're going to have this happen again in September. In general, this is a time where the odds are more in favor of a disappointment now than a triumph. If you're not, again, listening to this, the best way to describe it is it's your inner limits, finding and setting your inner limits, because Jupiter's expansive energy just wants to go, whoo, expand, 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 expand. And then Neptune throws questions into that, throws, a lack of clarity, throws confusion. So it's like you feel this expansion wanting to come, but you either don't know how to use it, how to do it, or in which way to go, what direction. So definitely try to follow the flow and settle into the new norm of what you've already expanded, rather than trying to continue too much expansion, if possible. This full moon in Sagittarius at almost 26 degrees on June 17th will bring fullness, completion, fruition to all things Sagittarius. So anything involving teaching, learning, international travel or business, different countries, different cultures, different languages, spiritual pursuits, anything involving the church, if you're, whether it's a specific church or just spirituality in general. And a lot of trips or information about trips or gelling of trips could come at this time, or education opportunities. Okay, look out for that whole thing of the overdoing, like I talked about, especially around June 23rd. This could be like where too much of a good thing occurs. When there's an opposition with Venus and Jupiter, or with anything in Jupiter, Jupiter tends to be more benevolent in its opposition form. So this is something that could be just like too much of a good thing. So, overdoing, try to guard your immune system. And if you're watching your money, then be extra careful right now, because your drive to splurge will definitely be more. So if you're on a budget, be careful of the elated energies that could occur at this time, because you could go on a spending frenzy and it could take you off track. Okay, so in general, those are the things that I most wanted to talk about. There are lots more details, as I discussed, but in order to try to keep this brief and focused, I've just hit some of the highlights. So definitely go to AnnieHelpsYou.com. If you'd like to book a live reading, you can do that there. You can also book a reading with my apprentice, Marilee. And Marilee is amazing. So you can see more about how to connect with her on my readings page at AnnieHelpsYou.com. You can check out my extensive blog. If you'd love to have written horoscopes from me, you can go to CozyBySweetStarlight.com. And I do written horoscopes a month ahead, sometimes talking about different things than we talk about in the video. So you get a more extensive view and a written version there, plus lifestyle blogs. And definitely check out my book, Radical Prayer, Transform Your Life in the World in 28 Days. You can see that on Amazon, and you can buy that internationally. It's also can be available and ordered either, if they're not already, at booksellers across the world, or you can see it at radicalprayerbook.com. So I hope you have a wonderful month. I hope the eclipses bring you good news and lots of chances for wonderful transformation, and I'll see you next month. Bye.